Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session on innovations for high share of variable renewable electricity power systems. My name is Dolf Gielen. I'm the Director for Innovation and Technology at IRENA, International Renewable Energy Agency, and I'll be your moderator for this afternoon. In terms of planning of the session, we have time till reserved till 17:30, so it's a long session, 3.5 hours. But we have planned for a coffee break at 3:30. And in terms of the setup, so we will first have a set of presentations. In total, we have 8 presentations. And we have 15 minutes speaking time for each speaker. I will introduce you and ask you to come here to the lectern individually. And I think it's easier if you go back to the room because so you can also see the screen. Following these presentations from 4:45 till 5:30, so for 45 minutes, we will have a panel for which I will ask all the panelists to join. So the focus of this session is on innovations for integrating high shares of wind and solar electricity in power systems in Europe, and especially around the issues of flexibility and empowering new generation of energy consumers. And these are topics that were also very much discussed this morning. You may have heard the presentation of our Director General. What we see is that the cost of renewable power generation continue to drop. And that follows on a significant cost reduction in recent years. We think that cost reduction will continue. And because of that, you see that in terms of capacity additions, renewables account now for the majority of new capacity. And we see that the renewables shares are going up year by year. And that is an important trend on the power generation side. At the same time, we need emissions reduction also now on the end-use sector side, so in buildings, industry, and transport. And we think that electrification of end users can play a critical role there. And it's really the combination of the two that can bring us the majority of emissions reductions that we need in the coming 30 years. Now, if you look at a global scale, the share of solar and wind is still relatively modest. In total, about 10% of power generation. We think that needs to grow well above 50% by 2050. And that means that some countries will be at even higher shares. And these shares are not outlandish. So, for example, Denmark is there today. But of course, everybody, if you mention Denmark, they immediately say, yeah, but they have great connections with Germany and Norway. Nobody else can copy that. Okay, then let's talk Germany. Germany had, in the second quarter, of this year, 47% renewables, including about 42% of variable renewables. So there are also more closed economies which are already at high shares of variable renewables. And that gives you a little bit more of a sense that such systems can be operated, but they pose, of course, new types of challenges. And let's say all these challenges are grouped under the term flexibility. We need more flexibility in power systems. Now, that flexibility that comes in many forms. We've split it into four key dimensions, so technologies, market design and regulations, systems operation practices, and business models. So you need changes in all four areas to gain this flexibility, operationalize this flexibility. And then on top of that, you get this electrification of the end-use side, which can create new flexibility if you do it the right way, but which can also cause problems if you do it the wrong way. And maybe that's something we can discuss this afternoon. Traditionally, flexibility came very much from the supply side of power systems, so flexible, mainly fossil, so dispatchable fossil power plants. And that needs to change. There is not enough of these plants. And second, of course, also the share of fossil will go down as the share of renewables goes up. So more of the future flexibility needs to come from the grid and from what's called distributed energy resources, so from the demand side. So that is a major shift. Now this transition is supported by three key developments. So one is decentralization of supply. Not all renewables, I should say, are decentralized. Of course, if you have a 1 gigawatt plus wind park, that's not very decentralized anymore, but still, if you're talking rooftop PV, if you're talking still some of the onshore wind, it's much smaller plants. Electrification, I already mentioned. Of course, electromobility is at the moment very much under discussion, but in a European context, heat pumps are also very relevant, and there are different views on what they bring in this transition. And then digitalization was already mentioned this morning. It's very much the digitalization also that enables this flexibility in the grids and in the demand side to really work. We have analyzed the recent innovations in these four dimensions that I mentioned: technology, business models, market design, and system operation. And we found 30 key innovations that make this possible. And we wrote a report on that. We're also writing currently innovation briefs for all these 30 innovations. So 16 of these innovation briefs have already been released. 14 more will come early next year. And we find that there is a lot of best practice and a lot of pilot projects out there from which you can learn and can build your own portfolio of options to create flexibility. We also find that usually it's not a single innovation, a single of these innovation options that creates a solution. Usually you need to combine different elements. For example, a new enabling technology with a new business model, with a new market design. So if we talk aggregators for storage services to the grid, then you need all three elements to make that happen. And so we identified 12 key solutions based on these 30 innovations, so combinations of these innovations. So on a European scale, of course, we will go from 20% renewables 2020 to 32% renewables in 2030. So that is a significant increase. The countries have submitted their draft national energy and climate plans to the Commission, and the Commission has responded to these plans. I would say, looking at the comments in general, if you aggregate the plans on the renewables, they're quite close to what we need. The main challenge the Commission identified was that on the efficiency side, there is a significant shortfall, on the energy efficiency side. So the percentages that are shown in this graph is for renewables in gross final energy consumption. It's not renewables share in power generation. But what this indicates is that we need a significant increase in the total renewables share in different countries at very different levels. Countries will remain at very different levels of renewables out to 2030, but this overall growth means also a significant growth of renewables in power generation in the coming decade. So we have discussed this. Every 2 years we organize our Innovation Week. The last one was 2018. The next one will be in the second half of 2020. We always organize that in Bonn, so this is some advertisement, and we'll keep you posted as we progress on that. And all the things I just described, we put them in reports. We hide these reports very much on our website. If you can't find them, let me know, and we can point that out to you.